7月20日，日本上议院选举结果出炉，自民党在石破茂领导下惨败，联合执政阵营仅拿下47席，不仅未能过半，更创下自民党15年来最差的表现。面对如此重大挫败，首相石破茂选择继续执政，让日本政坛再掀波澜。石破茂之所以拒绝辞职，关键在于美日关税谈判正进入深水区。7月18日，美国财长贝森特以美国国庆代表身份访日，出席大阪世博会美国国家馆日。访日期间，他也与石破茂进行闭门会谈。会后，贝森特在 X 上发文：“好的协议比仓促的协议更重要。”一度引发外界揣测，美日谈判是否恐将破局。但其实，双方私下未曝光的更多谈判细节，才是真正的决胜关键。
Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party and its coalition partner, Komeito, lost the majority in the upper election on July 20th. The new challenge for Prime Minister Ishiba Shigeru comes after the ruling party lost control in the lower house in October.
As president of the Liberal Democratic Party, I offer my deepest and most sincere apologies. We must take this result humbly and sincerely.
It's the second electoral setback for the LDP in the past year, with the party losing control of the lower chamber, the House of Representatives, last October. Voters were angered at rising inflation and the high price of staples, including rice.
The Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba's ruling coalition has failed to secure a majority in the crucial parliamentary election. Despite the shortfall, Ishiba says that he vows to retain power, and this is, in fact, in a bid to crack a trade deal with Washington.
In the last few minutes, President Donald Trump says the U.S. has reached a trade deal with Japan. He's calling it perhaps the largest deal ever made, to include vehicles and agricultural products. Japan and the U.S. will each pay a tariff of 15% on goods.
But I just signed the largest trade deal in history, I think maybe the largest deal in history, with Japan. And that was done with Japan. They had their top people here, and we worked on it long and hard, and it's a great deal for everybody. I always say it has to be great for everybody. It's a great deal. A lot different from the deals in the past, I can tell you that. But we're doing really well as a country. We're strong. We have a lot of money flowing in. The tariffs are kicked in better than anybody other than me and a few of the people in the room thought could happen.
Well, this is only the second trade framework that has been reached since the U.S. reached a similar deal, some would posit, back in May. Now, we don't know much more about exactly which Japanese products are going to be subjected to the 15% reciprocal tariff. We also don't know specifically what more beyond automotive and agricultural products from the U.S. will be going into the Japanese market. We don't know exactly when this is all supposed to take effect, even though the president has a deadline for the beginning of August to spell out just how detailed these trade frameworks are supposed to be. This does come a few hours after the White House announced that it had also reached a trade framework with Indonesia, the president making note of the fact that Indonesia would be sending precious rare metals, things that are used in the production of technological items, to the United States, and that in exchange, it would not only buy agricultural products, but it would also buy Boeing aircraft. We don't have a dollar price on that, and there's also the wrinkle that could affect not just the Indonesian deal, but the Japanese deal as well, that any products that come from multiple sources, including from China, could be subjected not to a lower tariff rate for Japan of 15% and for Indonesia a 17%, but if those goods contain material coming from China, the tariff could rise up to 40%.
川普与贝森特曾多次强调，好的谈判不是看数量，而是看质量。这次美日贸易协议的关键已不再仅是关税高低或进出口额的多寡。 真正的焦点是如何重新调整产业布局与主导权的归属，将日本汽车生产链的部分环节外移至美国本土，要求日本进一步开放汽车市场，让美资企业更深度参与，同时针对技术转让展开细致谈判，逐步建立制度性条件。这不单是一场贸易谈判，而是一场横跨生产基地、品牌控制到标准制定的全面进场行动。关键并非关税本身，而是谁将定义下一代的制造业模式。如果说1985年的广场协议是以汇率为武器的调整战，那么2025年的川普关税则可视为是一场供应链的重组战。两者本质相同，都是美国在面对结构性赤字与美元压力时所采取的地缘经济对策。当美日双方已经完成协议，逐步落实之际，其他国家或许应该从惊慌中开始看清楚这场被森特参与的策略布局，不只是单一国家的利益诉求，更可能是美元在全球新秩序中重新争取资源配置权的杠杆工具。因此，当川普说字典里最美丽的字是关税时，他想的从来不只是关税，而是产业的实质主权。
Well, Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba actually spoke to reporters this morning. Now, Mr. Ishiba said he has not received the latest details from Mr. Akazawa yet, but what he can say at this point in time is negotiation with the U.S. started in February. It was about defending each other's sovereignty, and going forward, Japan and the U.S. will work together, create jobs, create good products. He said the two countries will be able to contribute to this world. Japan's been the biggest foreign investor for the U.S. He wanted the U.S. to leverage on that to cut down on its trade deficit with Japan. Now, important in particular to Mr. Ishiba and for the Japan economy is to save Japan's auto sector. It's the most important sector for Japan, and 1/4 of Japanese exports to the U.S. have been vehicles. In April, U.S. tariffs on Japanese cars rose to 25%. Impact has been immediate. May and June figures show Japan's car exports to the U.S. fell. Although not yet official, Japanese media say there are government sources stating that tariffs on cars has been lowered this time to 15%. That's in the latest negotiation. And if all these are true, it's actually an achievement on the part of Prime Minister Ishiba and Minister Akazawa, even though they lost the latest upper house election.
And for more, we're joined by Deborah Elms, Head of Trade Policy at the Heinrich Foundation. Let's start with the numbers, 15% versus 25%. We're hearing the Japanese media apparently caught a little bit off guard, but not in an unpleasant way. So is it a win-win? Is it a good deal to you at first glance?
Well, I think we need to see a lot more details, because the question is what was covered and what was excluded. And crucially for Japan, 15% is certainly better than 25%, but remember that U.S. tariffs were roughly 2% heading into April. So, this is a significant escalation in tariffs overall. And especially for Japan and other industrialized economies, what matters is not just this reciprocal rate of 15% or whatever it is, but also what is happening on all of these sector-specific tariffs that include cars, metals, semiconductors ahead, pharmaceuticals ahead, et cetera, where Japan is extremely competitive. Those will ultimately matter more, I think, than whatever this reciprocal rate is as we head forward in time. But that's not the only challenge for Japan. Many of the vehicles that Japan manufactures for the United States market are made in the U.S. And so what matters to them is also auto parts tariffs, and crucially, things like metals, so steel, aluminum, and all of the derivatives. If those are up by 25%, then your domestic production or 50% actually on metals, your domestic production in the United States is also disadvantaged. And so I think you have to remember that this is a series of moving parts, and you're trying to think about all the ways that the pieces come together to create either easier or more restrictive trade environment for Japan, Japanese companies, and U.S. companies looking to continue to export to Japan.
从日本的案例来看，美国所追求的并不只是单纯的关税数字，而是一场更具目的性的交换行动，透过关税作为杠杆，推动美资企业入场， 技术准入与供应链重新定向的结构性变革。在川普与贝森特的谈判剧本中，交易的筹码不只是产业主导权，还包含了主权与未来经济想象的份额。石破茂在选后的巨大政治压力下，选择以短期突围为目标，接受了关税保护费的现实，但他仍试图保住汽车产业的核心主权与技术底线。在这场美国主导的关税攻势下，这已经不是一场单纯的经济交易，而是一场关乎国家命运、重新定义的战略对弈。石破茂或许只是这场国运交易的开端，但韩国、台湾身处同一供应链枢纽的国家与地区，势必也将面对类似的选择。目前外媒观察到，台湾暂时被排除在谈判之外。虽然对外事务而言，这是一种冷处理的尴尬，但或许也是一段难得的缓冲期。与其焦虑于被晾在外的外交被动，不如思考，当台湾终将坐上谈判桌时，应如何确保在这场国运重塑的过程中安全下庄，降低损失，并为未来留下能重新定义自身主体性的空间。